Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Cultist Harbinger. That's the girl you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video we're going to take a look at perks, mutations, equipment, and everything else you need to know in order to recreate the character if that's what you want to do. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What this character is going to be about is a rather unspectacular build, I would say, but it is a lot of fun. What we're going to do here is we are going to play as a stealth archer. And the most interesting thing about this here is that in the past, when I have made archer builds, for the first time this time around, what we're going to do is looking at the compound bow. So far, I have always used the standard bow or the crossbow, but yeah, as I said, this time around, we're going to take a look at the compound bow. And in addition to that, as a little tweak to the character, what I wanted to do is just make a build focused around having really high agility. Now, obviously, when I'm going for a stealth build, I always try to pump my agility pretty high, and other than that, the most effective way to get your agility very high is just a low health build using unyielding armor, but that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is basically trying to get as high as of an agility stat as we can get with a full health build without using any temporary buffs. So this is basically the rule set for this character here. And the fact that we have such high agility gives us a little bit of wiggle room in the agility stat, because we don't really need to use the sneak per card, as we have very high agility, which boosts our stealthiness, and in addition to that, we are using a completely silent weapon. Now, the reason why so far I have never made a build using the compound bow is quite simple, which is that in the past I have had very buggy experiences with the weapon. For some reason, this was never really something I heard other people talk about a lot, and this is terrible. What? Alright, this is something that happens very rarely, where you're trying to hit an enemy in Vats and actually kill another enemy. This was fun. Took me right out of the video. Yeah, back to the topic. In the past, I had actually had terrible luck using the compound bow, where for some reason it was really buggy in Vats, sometimes not hitting for ages. And what I wanted to say just right now was that it was kind of a bad time to talk about it, because for the first time playing with this character this time around, I actually had a similar experience with that one ghoul there in the shack. But yeah, I was recently getting my hands on a compound bow and tried it again, and for some reason it didn't really lead to any trouble like I had in the past. So I decided to finally make a video using it, for the simple reason that the compound bow is just a superior bow, in my opinion. Now, in the past, I had the feeling that the compound bow had one thing going, the standard bow had one thing going for it, which was that it was a little bit faster. However, nowadays that I use the weapon, I am not having the same experience, to be honest. So, yeah, it just has more base damage, and that's pretty much it. And that's exactly what you want to have in a bow, right? So I have made one build so far where I was using the bow outside of stealth, which was definitely possible, if not a little more challenging. But yeah, stealth archer is definitely the way to go, like basically how it was in Skyrim. It's not that powerful, to be honest, but I personally would prefer to go with a stealth archer rather than a stealth rifleman. Like, it doesn't compare to a stealth commando, but yeah, for single shot weapons, I think stealth archer is a really good build, just right off the bat. You have really good sustained damage, even with follow through. You can actually do some good damage on bosses, in my opinion. I really don't see a major downside here, and it's very ammo efficient. Now, you do go through quite a lot of arrows, but when it comes to ammo efficiency, I think archers are one of the best builds in the game, because you typically use very few shots to take down mobs. Most of the mobs you're just one-shotting, If you are using a low health build, you can actually one-shot pretty much every single mob. And yeah, if you're doing stuff like daily ops or expeditions, you can farm arrows really easily. Like, if you are going for a stealth archer build, chances are you have to craft 5 arrows and that's it for the rest of your playtime. Whenever I'm running low on arrows, I just do some daily ops, and within half an hour to an hour, you can farm up to like 2,000 arrows, which will last you a long while. So yeah, that's basically everything that's really going for the stealth archer, in my opinion. It's a very straightforward build, and I enjoy it a lot. Now, on this occasion, the weapon I'm using is an Aristocrats version with better Vats crits and less Vats cost. Now, in the past, when I have used it, my goal was to just pump up my crit rate as far as possible, mostly using bows that had faster Vats crits, and therefore I was able to, with 23 luck, get a Vats crit on every second shot. Now, this time around, that's not the case. We typically use 2 shots to refill our critical meter, but I have found that outside of bosses, I don't really rely too much on criticals. The only situation where I really rely on them every now and then. It's basically what we're going to see now with some robots, and in addition to that, when I'm fighting super mutants. Now, I really hoped these guys would have respawned, because I have recorded another video on this server, but with another character. So typically these guys should have respawned, but maybe it's just those 2 guys. I think if it's just those 2 guys, we can just continue with the video. However, if it's all of the robots here, that's a little bit of a bummer, but we'll find a solution. Now, typically I just kill the few that are in the front here, so we're just going to stroll a little bit further into the compound here, and usually there should be a few more robots running around. If not, though, I mean, we will probably survive one video without fighting the robots here. Typically in this building here there should be 2 more Mr. Gutsies or something like that, shouldn't there? Yeah, there's a Protectron. Let's just go for the combat inhibitor, and as you can see here, one of the enemies that we're not going to one-shot, but yeah. We're in danger now, so there's definitely something to be said about not using the sneak card. Like, a lot of people I see, most of the times those are bloody builds, talk about how the sneak perk card becomes unnecessary at a certain point of agility. I never was under the impression, like, even when I had low health stealth builds, I was typically using the sneak the sneak perk card. However, I get what they're saying, like, it's definitely not too necessary anymore. It's just not the super brain dead approach to sneak that you typically take if you're really min-maxing for stealthiness, where you're just doing whatever you like. Like, if you're not using the sneak perk card and just rely on your agility, you will have to take a little bit of consideration as to your movement and everything, but it's definitely easily possible to just not be detected. Keep in mind, you can also keep great range usually, so yeah, there's really no problem here. Now, the fire rate on the bow is something that a lot of people critique usually. However, I never really felt like this was too much of a problem. To be honest, I actually feel like you can dish out quite a large amount of shots in relatively few time. So yeah, I'm not really sure why people have a problem with that. Maybe it's a little stressing on the index finger after a while, but even then, I mean, you really need to play for like 3 hours in a row or something to really feel that problem, in my opinion. But yeah, other than that, I think you can see where we're going here now. Obviously, it would be super cool if you could just one-shot literally every single mob in the game. I think that would be kind of appropriate for a weapon that has a few drawbacks like this here, but on the other side, yeah, I really don't think it's too much of a problem to take 2 shots every now and then for certain mobs. So yeah, the greatest thing about the bows in comparison to other weapons, in my opinion, is the ridiculous range. So pretty much the moment something is within Vats range itself, it is also within range for your weapon. So you can really just take pot shots at tremendous distances, like pretty much draw distance in terms of my PlayStation at least. So maybe that's a little different on the PC, but yeah, all in all, you can really do some really good sniping with this. Now, I really recommend using Vats. It's something I have thought about, making a Archer build not using Vats, but it just isn't fun. It's definitely doable, but there's just no upside to it, in my opinion. No benefit, really. It's just a disadvantage, and despite all of what I was saying, like the Stealth Archer being a great build, it's not exactly one of those builds where you're desperately in need of taking yourself a disadvantage, if that makes sense. It just makes for a way more enjoyable playstyle if you're using Vats, in my opinion. But yeah, here you can see once we have adrenaline going and once we're using our crits a little bit with planning, you can really even take down most super mutants with a single shot. So just keep in mind, level 60 super mutants or so, you can typically one-shot without a crit, so you can just keep your crits whenever you are fighting a level 100 version. Or if you want to do shots like these here, where you have really high distances. We do have Vats hit chance, not Vats critical meter, I just remembered, by the way. So yeah, that also helps tremendously. I think I said that wrong earlier. And here's a super mutant I have overlooked. Now this one was a little bit damaged from far-flung fireworks. Another thing that could be noteworthy here is the Aristocrats effect. Obviously is one of the better ones if you don't want to use Bloodied, and if you obviously have the caps for it, which on this occasion I do have. Now, another consideration I was taking was the instigating effect, but I ultimately found that even with instigating level 100 super mutants, for example, I wasn't able to one-shot without a crit. So ultimately the difference wasn't too great between using those two weapons, talking about instigating and aristocrats. And at that point I was deciding that, yeah, taking bosses into consideration or tougher enemies like Scorched Beasts and Behemoths, I felt like in the long run Aristocrats was the better option here. However, there's nothing against using a instigating version, and even then when you're fighting tougher enemies, you're basically carried by follow through. So you really don't necessarily need aristocrats or junkies or anti-armor or something like that. So instigating would still be a pretty good pick in my opinion. And yeah, otherwise, other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about here. Obviously, we can talk about the aesthetic a little bit, which is basically my favorite thing about this build. It straight up looks like a character from Skyrim or something, in my opinion. It really doesn't look like Fallout, but on the other side, having cultists in the game, it also doesn't look too out of place. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this build here. Now, one thing I do, which I don't do very often, is I do have the herd mentality mutation, so you always want to be on a casual team. However, that does not mean this is necessarily a team build. Quite the opposite, actually. It's not designed to play with other people at the same time. Like, the moment you are with a team, you often lose your sneak bonus, just because, yeah, if an enemy already, as far as I know at least, if an enemy already is in fight with a teammate, you're not getting a sneak attack multiplier, and yeah, therefore you're really missing out on a lot of damage, making the build not that fun anymore. And I'm getting shot from behind here. I totally forgot about this turret, but it was just blind firing. And yeah, so basically your basic procedure would be to just join a world, join a casual team if there's no casual team around, like in my case, just because I am on a private server. You can just create your own. Herd mentality does still work if you are on a team all by yourself. You're just getting 2 extra special stat rather than more for more teammates. And same goes for strange in numbers, which I do have in my active loadout here, just because, yeah, if you're playing this on public service, you're basically always going to get a benefit from it, and therefore I left it in here. However, keep in mind, if we are on a public server, you would have a little bit more agility yet, which in this occasion we don't have. But we are at like 34 agility, by the way. Usually I'm not giving too many fucks about showing you the stats, but since on this occasion it was actually a big part of the build, I figured I'd just show you as I just did. And yeah, other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about this build, to be honest. You pretty much saw what's going on here. Just thought it was a nice little thing, and ultimately I wanted to actually just have a reason to show you the A build using this bone skin for the bow, which in my opinion is one of the coolest skins we got so far. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the gameplay part of the video, and now we're going to take a look at the mutations and equipment and everything. So getting right into it, starting off with our mutations. Up there you can see we do have a bonus from the shadow armor effect, which comes from our armor, which I'm going to show in a minute. And we do have a casual team bonus, but that's not too impressive here. The more important stuff are our mutations. Now, starting off with not so important mutations, we do have adrenal reaction and egghead here. Those two, they're just, yeah, personal preference. You can use them if you want to. You don't need to. Like, adrenal reaction is actually enough, so with like 50% health, if you want to run around with that, you can one-shot most stuff. And I decided to leave it in on this occasion just because, yeah, I oftentimes ran around with like 70% health naturally, not using reds to keep it there or something. And yeah, I just felt a little bit more damage, which was definitely nice. And when it comes to Egghead, it's just a little bit of a bonus to our intelligence, and it doesn't really do a whole lot here in terms of negatives, because we already have a lot of negatives to our strength from Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes, which we definitely want to have. So yeah, it didn't change a whole lot for us, so I decided to leave it in there. Talking about Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes, those two are really important for this build. Now, Bird Bones, straightforwardly very important just because it gives us a huge amount of agility, which obviously fits very well with the character we are going here. And as for Eagle Eyes, well, we are a crit build, we are a Vats build, so yeah, we're using Vats constantly. We do get a little bit of a benefit from extra perception, but mainly what we are looking at here is the extra crit damage. Now, you could boost this further by using something like the Herbivore mutation and Blight Soup, but as you probably know, guys, I rarely use temporary buffs in my builds. It happens from time to time if I feel that a character really revolves around something like this, but on this occasion I didn't feel like it was necessary. Keep in mind though, if you want to really engage in a lot of Scorchbeast Queen fights or something, this would be a way to even improve your damage output in the long run quite a bit more. Now, that being said, we're going over to herd mentality. I pretty much said everything about it already. You probably know how it works. You do get 2 extra special, by the way, for every special, when you are in a team. And the description says you have to be nearby to your teammates, but that's actually not true. The moment you are on a team, you do get that bonus. And yeah, also, you do get that bonus if you are alone, because you yourself are a team member. I mean, it's a little bit of a wacky description, but yeah. 2 extra special, basically, for eternity is nice to have. You just have to be on a team here. And that being said, we are going with Marsupial and Speed Demon. Those two are pretty straightforward options. Now, Speed Demon, I'm not really sure if it actually does increase the reload speed on a bow, because as we all know, reload speed isn't a available legendary effect for the bow. Because I'm pretty sure that, yeah, my suspicion is that reload speed is tied to the animation when it comes to the bow, and therefore it can't be changed. So I guess that the reload speed isn't really affected by Speed Demon here, but just for the extra movement speed, and we want to have speed demon anyways here, and pretty much the same goes for marsupial. It's just we want that jump height. 20 extra carry weight is definitely nice to have, but not necessary by any means. And yeah, with that being said, I think we're done with our mutations on this occasion, and let's move over to our equipment. Starting off with our compound bow here, glow sights, just for the best accuracy, and ultrasight arrows. As I said, when it comes to arrows, they are super easy to farm, and therefore ultrasight wasn't really any problem here. Now, I typically think ultrasight is the better way to go when it comes to ammo in a lot of cases, just because it's more efficient to craft in a lot of cases. But especially when it comes to bows, yeah, even if you are someone who very rarely gets hands on fluxes, find enough to craft one batch of arrows, and that will be enough for eternity, because the way to farm these is just go into daily ops when there is a decryption event, decryption daily op with cultists or communists or something, and farm them for half an hour, not caring about your time, and you will be set for days, like very easily. We do have 800 arrows left. We started with, was it 900 or something? It's really, you're not using a whole lot of them, and you can farm them very easily. So yeah, ultrasight arrows on this occasion, just because they give you the best bang for your buck, and that's basically it. There aren't any more mods that we can talk about here. And when it comes to legendary effects, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Aristocrats I already talked about, just gives us a nice damage boost, and other than that, faster fire rate is not an option for your legendary effects. So when it comes to secondary effect, it really boils down to using Vats hit chance or Vats crits. And on this occasion, yeah, I felt Vats hit chance just made gameplay a little more fluent. Vats crits obviously would be nice when you're going against tougher enemies, but yeah. And when it comes to last effects, yeah, last Vats cost is nice to have. I mean, this bow is really efficient when it comes to AP usage, so you definitely won't need less action point cost, especially with that amount of action points, but it doesn't hurt either, and really there isn't any other option that was desperately necessary here. So yeah, I'm pretty glad with this roll here, and it's actually one that I have on a live server, so yeah, that's another reason why I wanted to make this build. Going over to armor, I do have a set of scout armor, covered scout armor, which gives you a shadowed effect in and of itself, and in addition to that we do have a full set of shadowed gear from modifications. And yeah, we do have 3 pieces with ultralight, and for the legs I do have the muffled modification. And when it comes to legendary effects, what I was trying to get here was just a full set of +1 agility gear. And the only other thing was this here with harder to detect while sneaking. The rest was just, yeah, I was taking it as it goes. We have 1 chameleon piece, which fits nicely with the rest here, 2 artisan pieces, which are completely useless to us, and a mutant slayer's piece and a mutant's piece. So really all I wanted here was a set with +1 agility and 1 piece with harder to detect while sneaking. We certainly got what we wanted here, and yeah. Would I prefer something like AP refresh? Probably, but it gets a little boring if I always go for AP refresh on my armor. And yeah, as I said, on this occasion I was really trying to get my agility up as high as possible on a full health character without using temporary buffs. And yeah, a full set of agility was kind of necessary on this occasion. But yeah, not a lot more to say here. And the outfit on this occasion could be a little bit interesting. I do have the Cultist Dungeon outfit here, which is an Atomic Shop item, as you can see. I'm pretty sure it was from the previous scoreboard. And the first time I was putting this on, I was thinking like, damn, this looks goofy. I'm not sure how I can make a character using this, but ultimately, with the skull mask, a little bit of face paints, and white hair, I think it turned out pretty well. As for the backpack, I went with the Cultist Crypt backpack, which fits rather nicely on this occasion, but when it comes to backpacks, there's quite a few options that would have fitted pretty well, in my opinion. And yeah, the only other thing here, shielded radar ladders, obviously just for the agility yet again. Now, extra perception and luck also don't hurt, but yeah, agility was the main selling point here. And with that all, now we're going to take a look at our perks here. we're going to make it rather quick. It's not that impressive here. We do have Bandolier to keep our ammo weight low. In Perception, I have 2 ranks of Grenadier, 1 rank of Concentrated Fire, the rest is Archer and Bow Before Me. Now, the Archer perks and Bow Before Me are pretty straightforward, more damage with our bow and a little bit more armor penetration. There's not a lot to discuss here. And here, for the longest time, you see it's one of the only perks I have left here. I ran with Concentrated Fire rank 3, just because I felt like even if I was having a good hit chance already, it didn't hurt. But I decided to go with rank 1 because it felt like it was enough, and add Grenadier here because, as you saw there, we do have far-flung fireworks. I can't from the top of my head remember if it's one of the explosive perks that are affected by Grenadier, but I'm pretty sure it is. For that occasion, yeah, Grenadier, nice to have. So other than that, if it turns out, I honestly leave it up to you to look it up. If not, just use rank 3 of Concentrated Fire, but it doesn't hurt either way here. You can also use grenades a little more efficiently if you want. If that's what you want to do. When it comes to endurance, I really didn't intend to put a lot of points here because, yeah, it wasn't really necessary, so I decided to just go with fireproof. That's never a bad decision in my opinion, and that's everything we do here. When it comes to charisma, the important stuff here is strange numbers, just so if we have teammates that are mutated, we do get yet a little bit more agility from our Bird Bones mutation. Tenderizer, this is definitely one of the builds where Tenderizer is not that necessary here, but it still doesn't hurt, especially once we're going against tougher enemies. And last pick here was Field Surgeon, which correlates pretty well with First Aid and Intelligence, just because we are a very flimsy build, and for the most part, we don't need to care about our health. It wouldn't be a great decision, in my opinion, to invest a lot in survivability perks, so I decided to just go with these 2 perks here, helping us for the few situations where we do get in trouble. We just need to spam our Stimpack button, and usually a single Stimpack will heal us very fast so we can get out of danger, run away a little bit, and get back into caution. And yeah, it's just a nice combination to keep you alive on this occasion, and it doesn't cost you too much perk points. Other than that, you have Gunsmith. Pretty much always, Gunsmith is just a convenience pick here. If you feel like you are swimming in repair kits, obviously feel free to go with whatever you like here. I don't think that Demo Expert, by the way, does improve far-flung fireworks as far as I know. So therefore, yeah, don't necessarily use that. However, if you, as I said, feel like you don't need Gunsmith, Demo Expert could still be a good choice just to use grenades a little more efficiently. And now probably the most interesting part about this build here is our agility stat, because yeah, typically what you will see here is Sneak, Covered Operative, Escape Artist, Adrenaline, and maybe Action Boy. We're pretty close to that, but with one exception. We do have Covered Operative, Escape Artist, those 2 should be there. No big surprises. And Adrenaline, also no big surprise. We have 1 rank of Gun Fu, which works pretty well with the bow. I found that it works best in open spaces, obviously, but I found that it works a little bit better in third person than in first person. Just enough so it's actually noticeable for me. So yeah, just to keep that in mind. I only use rank 1 because it doesn't happen often enough, so I considered using higher ranks here. And other than that, we do have Action Girl and Mr. Sandman. Now, Mr. Sandman is a perk I very rarely integrate into my builds, just because it's situational. It only gives you extra damage at night. But on this occasion, this was basically exactly what I felt like I could get away with for not using the Sneak perk, just because our agility is so high. And as you saw during the video, there was one situation where we got detected, which, to be honest, on a stealth build, you can get away with never being detected. So yeah, I feel like I'm not as stealthy as I usually am with a set of chameleon armor and the Sneak perk on, but it's definitely stealthy enough for my means, and yeah, therefore on this occasion I used Mr. Sandman. Now, the description says on silenced weapons. Now, this could lead you to believe that you need a suppressor on your weapon, but it's actually, as far as I'm aware, a keyword that is added from the developers to the weapons if they are silent or not, and usually a silencer does, or suppressor, sorry, does add that keyword to the weapon. However, the bow doesn't need that. The bow comes with the silent keyword attached to it, so it does benefit from Mr. Sandman. And yeah, that's basically it. Now, for a few hours, I say, playing with this build, I ran with light-footed and rank 2 of Action Girl, but I found that actually light-footed didn't really feel too necessary on a lot of situations. It didn't work as I was expecting it, and therefore I decided to just go with rank 3 of Action Girl. And I didn't regret not using light-footed anymore. Going over to luck, this is another stat that's maxed out here. So one thing you can see here, our stats are spread pretty wildly. We do have three stats maxed out, and the rest is kept relatively low. This is something I often do in sneak builds, and yeah, luck is one of those stats that's maxed out. We do have bloody mess here just to give us an ever so tiny boost to our damage all of the time. Grim Reaper Sprint, obviously it is nice, and with such a high AP pool to begin with, there's a good chance that within the course of depleting our action points, there will be one enemy we kill that refills it completely. So very rarely we do run out of action points with this build. Better criticals, pretty straightforward. Critical savvy. These two together, obviously a very potent combination, and with 15 base luck, this is enough so we can get a crit on every second shot. As I said, it's possible to get more than that, but that would need a pretty different kind of character, so therefore, yeah, I went with this approach. And other than that, I do have starched jeans. This is pretty obvious. We want to keep our mutations, not get any new ones, so that had to be there. And since I want to have luck maxed out in order to get a critical on every second shot, I had one perk point to spare, and I decided to go with Class Freak. Ultimately, it doesn't do a whole lot here because all of the debuffs we do get are either pretty minor to our build, or they are so high that one rank of Class Freak doesn't change it too much. But when it comes to one extra rank of some perk point in in luck, there's not a whole lot you can go for here. Now, one idea I had in mind was using Curator and just use bobbleheads for agility, but as I said, I didn't want to rely on timed buffs in any degree. So yeah, that's why I went with Class Freak. Certainly doesn't hurt. And lastly, we're going to take a look at our legendary perks. Now, 3 of them are pretty straightforward and boring. Legendary Luck, Legendary Intelligence, and Legendary Agility. Legendary Luck and Intelligence, those two are giving us access to more perk points, meaning that we had 10 luck to begin with and getting 5 more from Legendary Luck. When it comes to Intelligence, we had 2 base luck and 5 extra luck from, 3 base luck and 5 extra luck from Legendary Intelligence. Only exception here is Agility, which was maxed out to begin with, so we have 15 Agility plus 5 from Legendary Agility. So yeah, that was a pretty obvious step here in order to get our Agility as high as possible. And the other 3 here are my favorite convenience pick, Ward Red, just so I don't have to deal with radiation. However, definitely not necessary on this occasion. You could live without it easily. The more important one here is follow through. Now, the moment you are going for a ranged stealth build, I think there's just no better perk than follow through. This should be your priority number 1. And lastly, we do have far-flung fireworks. I briefly talked about it. It's not exactly my favorite perk, and in terms of efficiency, it's definitely not worth it in my opinion. It's just a little bit of flavor, and it's fun to see stuff explode every now and then. However, it is, even completely maxed out, not happening regularly enough or to be considered very useful. It's very inconsistent in my opinion, and yeah, that's it. I do like to have it, but you shouldn't rely on its explosion damage, to be honest. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the build, guys. And yeah, let's take a look at our thumbnail here, which didn't turn out as well as I was hoping, but it should do the trick, I guess. And yeah, other than that, I really like the aesthetic of this build here. I just wanted to have a good excuse to use a combat bow here and skin. And ultimately, now that I have played with a combat bow and it isn't that glitched for me anymore, I'm not quite sure if I'm ever going to use anything other than that when it comes to archers. Like maybe the crossbow just because it's so different, but when it comes to bows, exactly, yeah, there's no good argument in my opinion to use the standard bow. Maybe I will find some difference in the future, but yeah. I have an archer build plan using the crossbow, but other than that, you won't see a bow on this channel for quite a while, I guess. Unless you have a very specific question or idea for a video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the build, guys, and see you next time. Bye.